Hello students, welcome to the model number 5 where we are going to discuss about in particular the properties, processing and application of ceramic materials, plastic materials, shape memory alloys, smart materials and their applications and environmental, economical and sustainability of these materials in the application and a residual life assessment and few NDT techniques employed to assess the residual life. So here in this in maybe if you recall in the module number 3 we have seen or we have discussed ferrous and non-ferrous materials and its alloys, and in the 4 we have seen the advanced material like a composite material, their processing methods and applications, and in the final stages, that is in this module, so we're going to see the ceramic materials, plastic materials and a few advanced materials and their properties and application. So in this section, the lecture number 1 in the module number 5, so we'll see what are these ceramic materials. So this is what exactly the syllabus for module number 5. So we see ceramic materials, plastics and shape memory alloys, smart materials and RLA, that is a residual life assessment, and NDT techniques with the economic, environment and sustainability of these materials. So to go with the ceramic materials, so ceramic materials are the category where we are going to have oxides of these metallic and non-metallic elements which are meant to have a high temperature applications, hard materials, wear resistance and the one which are having a very high compression strength. So normally if you look into the history of these ceramic material, how they evolved, okay, we can see the bricks normally we used to for a constructions where a proper soil with the desired properties mixed with the water and the binding agents given a shape like a rectangular slabs, and it is heated in a particular temperature for a few hours together to give a strength, and it is used for a construction purpose where they are kept one above the other, okay, to give the a high compressive strength. So that is what normally even in our ancestors age also they were using that one. And in the same way we can think of having the clay models or the utensils normally used to use in villages. Normally even nowadays also wherever we want to store the water, okay, in a cold condition we go with those utensils, that is a clay utensils which are made up of a clay, and it is heated and given a proper shape which are having a very high strength or a very high hardness also, okay. But the one drawback which is associated with these materials is a very less impact strength. That is a fracture toughness, we can say. Okay, so whenever they are subjected to a sudden loading and all, so they are not in a position to take up the load. Okay, so that is what they are having a capability to withstand a high temperature. Okay, and they are lacking in a plasticity. That is, they are not going to undergo a considerable plastic deformation or elongation. So you can take an example of ceramic tiles, okay, or a granites. Normally we use. They are having a high hardness, wear resistance. But if you are going to drop a object from certain height on those things, they will readily break into the pieces like glasses. Okay, so these ceramics are derived from a word called keromas, which means articles prepared by action of heat on earthy materials, that is a soil. Okay, as I said, so if you take any clay models made up of a soil subjected to a heat, with they can withstand a high temperature as well as a very high compressive strength. So normally these ceramic materials are oxides, are nitrites, are carbides, okay, are silicates of various metals which are having a high melting point or which are produced with the sintering. So whatever we said, applying a high temperature is called as sintering, and a hot pressing, like so when they are subjected to a high temperature, so they are pressed to give a proper shape. Okay, so these are the processing methods. Those things we will see one by one in a coming slides also. Remember, so ceramic is derived from a word called keramas, which means they are processed by the application of high heat and on the earthy. So when we see these, okay, like oxides or nitrites, all those things, so these ceramics are classified depending upon their usage also. Okay, so there are many classification. So in that one we can say abrasives, which are used for a grinding purpose. Okay, so like a grinding machines, okay, grinding wheels normally we are going to use like alumina or a corundum. Okay, so there are different grades of a material, so depending upon whether you want to have a rough grinding or a smooth grinding, okay, so depending upon those sizes of the granules are going to vary. Okay, those are we are going to call as abrasives. Normally we use for maybe like a sandpapers. Normally we use it for a polishing purpose. So next, pure oxide ceramics like a MgO, Al2O3, SiO2, okay, silicates. So wherever it comes to have these what you call high temperature applications, okay, or a fire clay products like a bricks, tiles, porcelain, etc. Okay, so where it can have a uh, high compression strength, high hardness. Okay, so inorganic glasses, window glasses, lid glasses, where we want to have a transparency. Okay, so opacity, so all those things are used with the window glasses. So cementing materials like a Portland cement, lime, so where they are going to used in order to have a high compression strength. Rocks like a granites, sandstones, minerals like a quartz, calcite, or a refractories like a silicate, silica bricks, magnesite. Okay, so means depending upon the functioning of those things, how they are used, whether it is used for a high temperature application or whether it is used only for a high compressive strength or whether it is used for a high hardness application or whether it is used for a transparency or opacity or a refractoriness. Okay, so these ceramics are classified in different categories. So when it comes to the structural classification, so we're going to have a crystalline ceramics, non-crystalline ceramics, gloss bonded ceramics, and cements. Okay, so crystalline cements, even though we say these ceramics or oxides or nitrites and all, okay, so we find a single phase crystalline structures like a MgO or a multi phase like a Al2O3, okay, where we are going to have a binary systems, or non-crystalline ceramics like a natural and synthetic inorganic glasses, okay, so which are not having a definite structures, or glass bonded ceramics like a fire clay products, okay, so where those things are bonded with the adhesives. So cements, okay, which are either a crystalline or a non-crystalline phases which are mixed in order to uh, bind the materials, okay, or maybe we can divide these or classify these ceramics on the products also, like a white waste, chemical storm waste, okay, abrasives, insulators, refractories, mineral ores, bricks and tiles, cements and concretes, glasses, porcelain enamels, okay, electrical porcelains, slags and fluxes, okay, so we will be having a plenty of classification in that one. So depending upon the application also, okay, so we can classify, okay, so based on the function, okay, so based on the application, okay, so even based on their properties also, so where we are going to use like in the heat exchangers to withstand high temperature, cutting tools to withstand high hardness, okay, or abrasion, semiconductors like insulators, okay, or prosthetics, okay, so we can use for a white waste, tiles, bricks, pottery, abrasive wheels, where they can withstand abrasion and a very high temperature also. Okay, normally these ceramics are meant to have a high melting point, high hardness and compression strength even at a high temperature. So even we state those things in the advantages. So very hard and strong and dense. Okay, even we can have a porous material also which is used for a insulator. They have a high resistance to the action of a chemicals and to the weathering. They are non-corrosive in nature. Possess a high compression strength compared with the tension. That is what we said. Okay, they are weak in a tension and impact, but they are extraordinary in the compression strength. So they have a high fusion points, okay, means a bonding strength. So they offer excellent dielectric properties, okay, like insulators, thermal insulators, even electrical insulators. Their resistance to high temperature creep, availability is good, good sanitation, better economy. Okay. So few of them are naturally available, because of that the cost which is incurred for raw material processing and all is a bit lesser in that. And as we said, like we can have plenty of applications also, example like tiles, sanitary waste, low and high voltage insulators, high frequency application, okay, chemical industries, okay, like a jars to store the chemicals, so heat resistant application, okay, or if you go with any nitrates or carbides and all, so we can have a refractories, electrical and electronic industry like insulators, okay, capacitors, semiconductors, or in the nuclear applications where it can withstand high temperature like a fuel elements, fuel containers, moderators, control rods, okay, so in the ceramic metal cutting tools like a Al2O3, okay, so or maybe carbide tipped tools, and in the optical application we go with the White-Rox, a comparative newcomer in the ceramic material field, okay, so which is useful in a transparent window glasses and will resist a high temperature, okay, so means we can have a n number of application, okay, where the properties are expected, like a abrasion or a wear resistance, very hard, okay, so like an internal combustion engine where they can withstand a high temperature, okay, or electronic packaging where they have to what you call preserve the things, okay, so cutting tools, energy conversion, storage and generation, okay, So like that, if you go on listing the application, so we can list the application depending upon the categories, like a traditional usage, automotive, aerospace, electronics, energy and environment, mechanical engineering, medical technology, modern industry. Okay, so like that, we will find one or the other way to have the ceramics in a day-to-day life. Okay, so where we can see the advantages are converted into the application in the real world. So now once we see what are the properties normally we are going to have it. Okay, so various like a mechanical, electrical, chemical. So when we look to the mechanical properties of a ceramic material, so they are having a low tensile strength, but they are having a very good compression strength in the other end. So they generally fail due to stress concentration on a cracks or a pores, etc. So as we said that they are having a low fractural toughness or impact strength also. They possess a great hardness, resistance to wear, can be used for grinding, okay, can be used for a cutting tools. So they possess high compression strength. Most ceramics possess low fracture strength and undergo brittle failure. That is the one major disadvantages associated with the ceramic material. So the value of the Young's modulus can go up to 7 into 10 power of 10 Newton per meter square to 40 into 10 power of 16 Newton per meter square. Means this Young's modulus is corresponding to the compression strength. So when it compare that one to the compression strength, so it can go up to the many folds compared to the metals and the remaining components. And as we said that these are very good in a dielectric like insulators and all. So even when it comes to the electrical property, okay, so they are often used for electrical insulation major part. Okay, so maybe the coating of the wires, okay, the coating of high tension wires and all. So some ceramic conduct electricity sufficiently used for semiconductors like a NTC, negative temperature coefficient, and a PTC. Okay, so where if you are going to supply the energy, so the properties may be changed to the semiconductors like a pentavalent and a trivalent material. So many ceramics have a dielectric constant up to 100 and very low dielectric losses, which can be used for insulation and semiconductors or maybe capacitors and all. So certain ceramics also exhibit piezoelectric property and can transfer mechanical deformation into the voltage changes. Okay, so which can be used maybe to generate the electric power. Okay, so where we can convert these mechanical action into the voltage changes. And when it comes to the chemical property, they are non-reactive in nature. They can withstand these highly reactive chemicals. So normally they are used in a chemical containers. Okay, so they are completely resistant to the oxidation at high temperature. So glazed porcelain ceramics for a chemical vessel due to their resistance to the corrosion also. So when it comes to the glasses and all, optical property are very much high, like so they are normally used in lenses, window glasses. Okay, so special glasses are used in a selective transmission of absorption of a certain wavelengths such as infrared and ultraviolet radiations. Okay, so when it comes to the thermal property, they are having a high melting point. Specific heat of a fire clay bricks are 0.25 to 0.297 at 1000 to 1400 degree Celsius respectively. Means that much insulation they can, or that much temperature they can withstand. And when it comes to the nuclear property, they are refractoriness is used in order to use them in the nuclear applications. So how exactly these ceramics or the structure of the ceramics are mainly meant? They are having a purely ionic or maybe the covalent bonds. Okay, so the ionic bonds are a little bit weaker compared to the covalent bond. Okay, so where we are going to have a covalent bonds which are having a high hardness and high melting point with a low electrical conductivity. Okay, so even the strength of these ceramic materials are mainly meet are dependent on these the type of the bonding which normally they are at the molecular level. Okay, so normal crystal structure which we observe in a ceramic is a rock salt structure, that is NaCl, okay, cerium chloride structure, zinc blende structure, wurtzite structure, spinel structure, fluorite structure, and ilmenite structures. Okay, so means depending upon the arrangement of these, okay, molecules, that is ions in the ceramic, so we can have a different crystal structure in the ceramics. Okay. So now when it comes to the processing of the ceramics, so that is what which makes a difference in its application. Okay. So even the application of the ceramic is mainly dependent on the processing method which normally we employ for ceramics. So when we choose any ceramic for a processing, so there are methods which we need to follow, okay, or we can say there are steps which normally comprising of a raw material selection, grinding milling of a raw material, sizing or a screening, blending of a powders, pressing and sintering. So there are, we can see like there are 5 steps which normally are followed for a processing of a ceramic materials. So we'll see one by one. So raw material selection. So whenever we are going to select the raw material, so first and foremost thing is the purity. Okay, so how pure that raw material is. Okay, so if there are any inclusions which are present in that one, so we need to check for the size of the inclusion material which can act as a solid solution strengthening. So grain size of the matrix material, so where we can say the All-Pitch equation. Okay, so if the grain size are small, the strength of that one will be high. If the grain size is more, the strength will be less, but in other words the creep resistance will be high. So means depending upon the application, so one can choose the grain size. So volume fraction of the second phase, if you are having any adhesives, okay, for binding of these particles, so then the fraction of that one, the resultant thermal expansion of a base matrix and inclusion. So if there is a mismatch in the thermal expansion, then it leads to a problem. So one need to take care of those things. So mechanical and electrical properties of a resultant matrix. Okay, so whenever we are going to use any of the ceramic material, okay, so one has to take care of all these factors, okay, considering these things only. So they have to choose the matrix and adhesive material. So as I said, so when it comes to the particle size, so the All-Pitch equation, which if you recall, the one which you discussed in the module number 1, okay, so where we used to say the sigma is inversely proportional to the square root of the diameter of the grain size. Okay, so where we can say the strength is mainly dependent on the grain size. Okay, so finer the grain size, so the density will be more comparatively, which leads to lower porosity, giving rise to the high strength of the material. So once we select the raw material, so next one is, okay, so producing a powder from that one, that is a grinding or a milling. Okay, so the bigger one or the coarser particle are crushed or broken into a small pieces. Okay, that is what we go with, either a grinding or a milling. Okay, so we use a ball milling. Okay, in which we are going to have a small balls which are made up of a hard steel material. Okay, so which are used in order to crush or in order to break these ceramic material into a small pieces or a small powder or maybe particle size. So again these particle size are going to decide the strength which you are going to get it at the end product. Okay, so So whenever we are going to break or make a powder from this one, so care should be taken in order to maintain the uniform thickness of these particles. So next one will be sizing and screening. See, when we are going to use a ball mill to produce the particle size of a ceramic material, so in order to ensure there are uniform size of the particles, so we go with the sizing or a screening or a sieving. So it is done with the sieving. So where we are going to have a sievers of a particular hole size, and we are going to get a different particles of a uniform thickness in a different levels, and depending upon the requirement, so one can choose out of those sievers. Okay. So once that is the particles are grouped, okay, and a particular size of the particles are taken, so next one will be the blending of powders. Okay, so when these powders are taken, it is blended with a proper adhesives or a binders. Okay, so to bond these particles, okay, or to get a proper structure to the ceramic particles. Okay. So next, once we get these particles mixed with the adhesives or binders, next will be pressing and a sintering. Okay, so pressing is to give a proper shape, and compressing these or compacting these particles with the adhesion to give a proper shape to that one. Okay, so when we see the pressing, so you can have a uniaxial pressing, okay, isostatic pressing, and a hot pressing. Okay, so as the name itself indicates, you can say uniaxial. Okay, so in only one axis or in only one direction, so the pressing is done. So isostatic pressing, okay, so the pressing is done in a equal in all directions. So hot pressing means with a high temperature the pressing is done. Okay, so you can see the figure here. Okay, so if it is a uniaxial pressing, okay, so we are going to have a bottom plunger and a top plunger. So once the powder with the proper adhesives and binders are mixed, it is placed in this one, and the compactness is produced by applying a force on a top plunger. Okay, so if it is a isostatic pressing, then so you can see here, okay, so we are going to have a blended powder which is mixed with the what you call binders and adhesives, okay, and the equal force is applied from all the direction. Okay, so with the help of a compressing liquid, so you can say this is a rubber mold, okay, and it is a the force is applied or equally applied from all the direction. Okay, so that is what is the isostatic pressing. So when it comes to the hot pressing, the powders are placed in the die, okay, so at a high temperature, so achieving a compaction and sintering at the same time means so for this uniaxial and isostatic pressing, once the compactness is done, okay, it should be given to the sintering. Sintering means so this whatever the product is taken and it is placed in a furnace which is maintained to a particular temperature, and this product is placed in that furnace for a particular time. Okay, the time dependent on the density what we expect from that end product. Okay, so the disadvantages associated with this uniaxial and isostatic pressing means the pressing is done, then it is transferred to the sintering. So it takes a time. So in a hot pressing, so the pressing as well as the sintering is done at the simultaneously at the same time. Okay, so during the compacting itself, so we are going to have the sintering process. Okay, so means so one can adapt. Okay, so the different processing methods, so depending upon the requirement of the properties which normally we employ in the real application. Okay, so if there is a limited time, then we go with the hot pressing where it's a combination of pressing as well as the sintering. So if there is a time, okay, so if there is a what you call a complex shapes or the size of the component is a bigger one, so then it is difficult to have the furnace which can accommodate that much big pressure, okay, hydraulic press. So at that time we can go with the isostatic or maybe the uniaxial pressing. So then the product may be transferred to the furnace, so where we can go with the pressing. Okay, so this is a method by which we can process the ceramic material. So normally in order to produce the spark plugs, okay, so all those things, okay, or maybe the refractory materials, okay, or maybe the utensils which are made up of a clay, okay, so which can withstand high temperature, okay, or maybe these vitrified tiles, okay, or maybe the grinding wheels or a carbide tipped tools, okay, so all those things are done with these process. Okay, so that is about the ceramic material. So ceramic materials and its classification and the properties and the processing methods, so how it can be done.